It wasn't too long ago that we went down the rabbit hole of liminal spaces. My first introduction to the concept was more than likely the backrooms, as it probably was yours as well. Alongside the various images you can find online that invoke the same stomach-turning feeling that accompanies a liminal photo. That nostalgic sense of longing, but also a hint of uneasiness as something always feels slightly off. Most of the time, the places shown off in these horrors are places we are all too familiar with. Office buildings, school hallways, airports, you name it. Hell, even just some suburban neighborhoods give off that eerie sensation. If you have ever walked through an abandoned or slowly dying mall with no one else but you probably understand the uneasiness that goes along with it. Oddly enough, when watching the Polar Express for this latest Christmas season, I never fully realized just how much of a liminal nightmare that movie is. So much so, I debated making a full video on it. Who knows? Maybe I still will. As a matter of fact, I haven't really heard much about the live-action Backrooms movie being directed by Kane Pixels. Just that it is coming out this year, which that movie is something I am very curious to see, as I have no idea what direction they are going to try and take that movie in. Another aspect that makes liminal spaces so strangely scary is the fact that a lot of the time, nothing is really happening. The mundanity of it all. In just about every single instance, it is just one character on a solo liminal journey. No one else around to at least keep us company through the horrors of it all. I'd like to have a buddy with me as I frantically try to escape from the backrooms. But that's enough mindless yapping. Just like last time, we are going to be visiting a collection of liminal horror tapes, each one with a different liminal location to traverse through. As always, be sure to check out the original videos before diving on over here for us to face the backrooms together. But without further ado, let's put on our protective gear and head out into whatever liminal nightmare awaits us.
But before I let you get too far, just wanted to say if you're new here and enjoy what you're watching, be sure to hit all those neat buttons down below as it really helps support the channel. I'll also have linked in the description below our socials and the 4-player gaming channel where we dive into the terrifying world of horror video games. But anyways, now you can pass through.
The Dead Mall. Found footage. The tape opens up and the first thing we are met with is the logo for JVC camcorders, before the tape then loads in and we are watching quite the excellent film. And that it is 2012. The camera cuts ahead to the next day as we look up at a flashing billboard light. We continue to skip through the days we see as we walk down the street and go to the bar with some friends. We then see the filmmaker himself, who tells us that he has finally learned how to operate his camera, and that he is getting ready to go see the new Hobbit film, so to be on the lookout for his review on his blog. Right off the bat, I really like how authentic to the times this is feeling already. The Andrew Garfield Spider-Man and the GTA 4 sticker on the laptop are incredible details. Our character then picks up the camera and we cut ahead to find ourselves at the mall, looking up at this honestly really haunting snowman decoration hanging from the ceiling. Just look at him waving down at us. We continue to make our way through the mall, coming across this poster for The Hobbit, and from the sounds of it, we really liked the movie.
I was fucking.
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, I had only just watched the Lord of the Rings trilogy for the first time in 2025, and have yet to see any of the Hobbit movies, so it's not like I can tell him he's wrong. He walks out of the theater and proceeds to then call The Avengers a shit film. Alright buddy, now we have an issue. We carry along and call the elevator. Once inside, the camera starts to glitch out like crazy. The elevator doors open up, and we are now seemingly on a different floor of the mall. We get the title card and walk out of the elevator. We pretty quickly notice that there is no one else around, just us and the music that plays during the SpongeBob credits. I actually find that quite funny because I remember people saying that song used to creep them out. I guess it fits in pretty perfectly here. As we explore the mall, we end up coming across this pretty freaky looking bus kiddie ride. We walk past it and go to head out through these doors, but we only find ourselves still in the mall. The journey continues as we can see all the stores are now locked up, so there isn't even the benefit of getting free stuff. We try calling out to see if anyone is around, and to be expected, no one responds. We approach one of the gated stores, but nothing can be seen. The atmosphere is already quite tense, and the silence is killing me, so this next scene shamefully got me. Keep up the good work, Bears. You only startled me, that's all. As we make our way, we end up hearing a loud crashing sound from behind that gets our attention, but nothing appears to be behind us. Maybe time to pick up the pace. We walk over and presumably head up the escalators. Then we make our way past this tree that doesn't look ominous at all, until we end up coming across this long stretch of hallway. Understandably, our character doesn't feel like going down that way. We turn around and start to head for the escalators again, except the camera begins to glitch out like no tomorrow. But then with what we see next, I think I'd prefer it if the camera had stayed glitched. The snowman was already freaky enough at the very beginning. I didn't need to see him moving around like that. If he could so kindly get back to being lifeless, that'd be great. We turn around at a pace slower than I'd like, and to be expected, the snowman isn't our only threat. The chase is on, as the creature right on our tail continues to growl louder and louder. Surprisingly, we are able to make it down the stairs before we trip and end up in this completely different section of the mall. Apparently, the creature is with us too, because we are still running for our life. Unfortunately, we end up coming across one of those locked gates, and sure enough, that marks the end of our poor character. Remind me to never go to the mall ever again. It's clear why malls are used so often in these backrooms-esque videos, and it's because being in one all by yourself is so damn terrifying. Even just coming out from a movie late at night and having to journey through a dark empty mall is horrifying enough. Now add the threat on top of that, and it's now game over. It's funny how that creepy snowman showed up at the start to then come back near the end. I definitely wasn't expecting to have to see that bastard again. If I have any complaints, it's that I actually wish the snowman was what had been chasing us at the end. It seems more unique than your typical wire-looking monster. But nonetheless, the quality was top tier as the environment looked as realistic as ever, alongside the entities that were encountered. I also liked how we found ourselves in this liminal section. Unlike the others where you sort of just stumble into the back rooms, this one had us going into the elevator that likely was supposed to send us just elsewhere in the mall, but instead sent us to the secret liminal floor. I already have a hard time trusting some elevators, and I'd be lying if I said it didn't just get worse. Backrooms, found footage number 34, sewer system. Our video begins, and man, if this isn't the worst liminal space you could possibly find yourself in, the sewers. I can't imagine how rancid it must smell here. How did we get here? Who knows? We just so happen to have found ourselves here. We end up jumping down into the shit-filled water and begin to head down the tunnel. As we make our way, we end up commenting on the fact that it smells like death in here, and it's getting hard to breathe. I can only imagine. We are in this very large sewage system that expands many tunnels that go in an ungodly amount of directions. We even believe we might be walking in a circle at some point. However, we are then able to hear this very alarming sound come from behind us. Well, that isn't something you want to see here with you. I would probably start sprinting in the other direction rather than just stand there. That thing is now in the water with you, and it could be anywhere. Nevertheless, we slowly proceed onward. Perhaps we didn't notice it somehow. Funnily enough, as we move forward, he ends up noticing something that I didn't notice the first time. Now that he has actually seen that something is down in the sewers with him, it looks like our pace gets picked up ever so slightly. However, it doesn't last for long. We turn the corner around this tunnel before our camera then cuts to black and jumps ahead in time a bit. Once we return, our character has lost any sense of time, unsure of how long we have even been in here, walking through the disgusting sewers. However, those same noises end up coming back behind us. I certainly didn't expect to see all those arms coming up from the water. They almost look like they are blocking off the path. We thankfully start picking up the pace a little bit, trying to find an exit. That is, until those hands catch up with us and manage to grab hold, attempting to pull us back. We manage to escape from their grip and slowly but surely drag our feet through the water. The camera ends up cutting ahead again, and we are now thankfully out of the water and in some sort of tunnel staircase heading down. Looks like we have found some lower level of the sewer. Down is not the direction I think we should be going though. We start to walk down this trash-filled path. At least those hands aren't near us anymore. And so far, all the creatures have been limited to the water, except it looks like I may have spoken too soon. It almost looked like a ghost ran at us. However, now that we aren't in the water anymore, we can finally start running. We managed to escape from whatever was after us, and now we have found ourselves in this dark tunnel system. Almost looks like we are in a cave. We comment on how the air feels wrong, and I mean, at the very least, you are pretty deep underground, and the sewers are not going to feel nice. We then end up coming across a ladder leading straight up, and right when we start to head up, the tape ends. Well, that was unexpected. You almost never see the person make it out alive. Then again, we didn't really see this person make it out. They just found a ladder, but it's nice to think that they escaped. However, given the fact that this channel has a bunch of other backroom entries, it's safe to say he didn't. Unless it isn't the same character across all the tapes. I like how this entry took us somewhere we never see in liminal spaces, the sewers. If you think about it, it technically counts as a liminal space. It does act as a transitional area. I just don't think many of us has ever been down there to have any nostalgic feelings for it. The backrooms. No, not the backrooms video made by Kane Pixels, but the Mr. Leo. What has me pretty excited to check this one out is how it mentions that it was inspired by Annihilation in the description, and that's one of my favorite cosmic horror films ever. Our footage begins, and we see as someone films themselves walking along what looks to be an apartment complex. Once we head further, we find ourselves in this abandoned area. He zooms in on this smaller building, and says that once he gets it on film, they'll have to believe him. What is it he is trying to prove here exactly, and what is he trying to get on film? We get closer up to the building, and we can see that it looks pretty worn down. We head inside, and sure enough, it looks as beaten up on the inside as it did on the out. We give ourselves a little wave, look around the building, but nothing really interesting to note. He then bends down and picks up a stick, and begins to bang it against this wall. But now it's time for the magic. Just watch this. That was pretty trippy. We end up getting curious and try to stick our hand through, and sure enough, it does. We then get a little bit too curious. Would you look at that? Looks like we have found ourselves in the classic backrooms. We then get the title of this tape, A Journey Through. Right off the bat, the effects of the hand and stick going through the wall were pretty good. I didn't expect that to be what was shown off to us. Hopefully we can at least make it out if you're alive to show off the footage. Once we turn the corner, we can see that this is your standard backrooms location, if not a little bit more open than usual. However, there are still the classic ugly colors and the weird wallpaper you'd find at your grandparents'. We call out for anyone who can hear us, but we know the drill at this point. Nobody is responding to us. We find this strange cutout in the wall, and on the other end is just this dark void. I don't want to go over there. We head on a bit further before it looks like the camera cuts ahead a bit, and where else would we be but smack dab in the center of that dark area? God damn it. We hold here for a couple seconds, but then we pretty quickly snap back into the lit part of the setting. Thank God. We zoom in on one of the ceiling lights that isn't turned on, and then all of a sudden it flashes back, giving us a startle. The aimless wandering continues, until we come across this other corner, and as to be expected, the other side is just another dark void. Something I want to point out is how this whole setting is successfully very strange in its design. These weird cutouts in the walls, the ominous dark areas, even this next part coming up has more strange parts to note. As we head further into the dark section, we come across these numerous long hallways lined up next to each other. We begin to head down one of them, but pretty quickly come to a dead end. Why are these even here? We thankfully begin to head back to an area that has its lights on. Nice, an area I can actually see my surroundings. Right away, however, we turn the corner in the room close by, and who would have guessed? It's completely dark, all except this one little area off to the side. We go inside, and it looks like we are about to ride the haunted mansion. However, looking through the glass, we can see this large tree in this secluded area. Now, what would that be doing there? We end up cutting ahead a bit and find ourselves at this open door. We head in, and to no one's surprise, we can't see a damn thing.
Grunkle Stan, are you wearing a blindfold?
Nah, but with these cataracts, I might as well be.
Thankfully, we end up coming across a light switch, and it sounds like a whole generator gets turned on once this gets flipped. The lights come on to reveal what looks to be a glassed-off area, and inside, it looks like some sort of dirt mound. I mean, with the tree earlier, it sort of makes sense. We move forward and end up finding another light switch. This time, it reveals a bunch of laundry lines. I gotta say, that's pretty random. It's now time for the third switch, and once the lights come on, I gotta say, I'm starting to understand that Annihilation inspiration. I looked as intensely as possible to see if the branches move, but it doesn't look like they do. But it looks like a deformed tree of some sorts. Once we are out of that room, we cut ahead once more. This time, we can see a long hallway with this door off to the side. We head towards the door and peek inside. It looks like we have found the bathroom. To be honest, that's an incredible thing to find here. I don't know if these videos just normally don't include this detail, or if I'm oddly just noticing it for the first time, but it's cool that we actually see the shadow of our cameraman here. It shows that our character is actually being animated in some sections where we don't even get to see it. Like you can see in the shadow our arm moving to open the door. We end up moving up ahead a bit and see this caged off area, and inside looks to be an office of some sorts. We can see a desk and what looks to be pretty antique equipment. Interestingly enough, another door is off to the side. We head forward and can see another section without its cage, and another door. except this door is oddly small, which our cameraman finds humor in. However, it's now off to our next section of the map. We walk into the next room and find what looks to be this square railing. As it turns out, there's another floor below us. While trying to get footage of what's underneath, we end up fumbling our camera. Well, that's not what I wanted to see. The mysterious figure very slowly moves away before our character jumps down to retrieve the camera. And again, it's so cool that we are actually getting to see our cameraman. And at this point, I believe it's a real actor being comped into frame in some of these moments, because how else can it look this good? Now that we have the camera back, we head into the next area to find 3 possible pathways. We start to go straight ahead, but something about that doesn't sit right, so we change our mind and go to the right instead. Way off in the distance, we are able to see light from the next area, and once we pass through the entrance, it looks like a huge ballroom. It sort of looks like what would be inside of the big building we saw at the very beginning. As we make our way across, the lights of the place decide they want to pull a funny prank on us. Once the lights all flick back on, we decide it's now time to find an exit. Fun time's over, I guess. We cut ahead and are now in this separate cafeteria area, and to our surprise, we find a phone. We make an attempt to call out to someone, but to be expected, it doesn't work. Worth a shot, I suppose. But I mean, now you have a bathroom and a cafeteria. I'd say that's better than most scenarios here. Off to the right, it looks like a balcony. We walk up to it and can see the night sky oddly enough. And when we look over the balcony, well, let's just say I wasn't expecting this, but it was truly a welcome surprise. The last thing I thought was going to be over the ledge was the PlayStation 2 home screen. Honestly, that'd be the only thing to convince me to hang out here for a couple extra minutes. After that majestic view, however, we end up heading through this door in the kitchen. Inside looks to be this very narrow hallway that curves at the end. Around the corner, we can see this bright light shining through the door in front of us. We go to open it, thinking this may be daylight, but unfortunately, it's the building lights pulling out of the prank. We're still in the building. We set the camera down for a bit before we end up cutting ahead once more, watching as we continue our adventure. However, in a shocking turn of events, we come across an exit sign in a door. This could be our chance. Our character this whole time has not had the urgency I would be having if I was here, and it all shows with how slowly he is walking towards his potential exit. I suppose he has no idea that other entities are here with him, but still, we end up heading towards the exit and begin to walk towards the light. However, as we continue to move forward, we don't seem to be getting any closer. As a matter of fact, once we turn around, we see that we have made no progress at all. This begins to freak us out, and we start to try running faster and faster, but it never works. We are not moving in the slightest, and the room behind us is starting to glow red. We cut ahead a bit, and our character tells us that he has tried everything. Walking with his eyes closed, walking backwards, anything. This is when he gets the idea to film himself attempting to exit. Maybe this is the key. I gotta say, I didn't think this effect could be pulled off, but goddamn did they manage to make a convincing effect for this type of scenario. This endless loop continues on, but then we see something off screen pick up the camera and quickly fly towards our character before the tape ends. I'm gonna be honest here, folks. This may be the best Backrooms video I have seen yet. To be fair, I haven't watched many of the Kane Pixels entries, but this one was so cool to see. Being able to see the cameraman, the reveal that we aren't alone, the ending effect of us running infinitely, it was all such a spectacle of VFX to witness, not to mention the beautiful PS2 cliff that I just wish could exist in real life. What also had me intrigued was that section with all the glass chambers, holding the deformed tree and all that dirt. Since the Backrooms normally operates as a fourth dimension, I wonder if these are all little blips being taken from our reality, like sections of our world being stolen. Odd movie to reference, but it reminds me of Thor: The Dark World at the very end, when all the junk is being thrown around all across the realms. This journey through these liminal spaces was once again a delight to take part in. It was super neat to get to explore these 3 distinct locations, starting off at the haunting mall where that evil-looking snowman came to life to torment us, followed by finding ourselves stuck deep in the sewer, where all those creepy hands come out from the water to hold us down, and finally ending us off in the classic Backrooms, where we find ourselves endlessly wandering this office building, all while something else is lurking close by, that our character doesn't even notice, but we do, making it all the more scary. The The backrooms and all liminal spaces alike are such a treat to explore. They give off such a unique feeling that many other horrors aren't able to hit. I saw a video a while back of these guys visiting real-world liminal locations, and honestly, that sounds like it would be such a trippy experience. However, that'll probably be about it for this video. Be sure to check out all the channels I'll have linked down below, as there are plenty of other works across their channels that are worth being checked out. As always, be sure to keep leaving me recommendations down below, whether it be in the YouTube comments or the community Discord. But if you'll excuse me, I'm now kinda curious to check out the inside of my local sewer.